All right, welcome everyone. I see on the agenda that I am chairing this meeting, but it is also my first time being part of this group. So I'm happy to do a quick introduction and then popcorn around. And maybe, Leah, if you don't mind, I will let you lead the discussion where we review our charter and the CX scope. And then I really appreciate in advance everyone's honest feedback as far as the topics that you are most interested in or that think will be of the most value to this community going forward. So, Alicia Chapman, I am an Oregon Transportation Commissioner based in Portland. I have been on the commission for about a year and a half, and I am also the commission liaison to our bi-state tolling commission, our tolling committee for the Columbia River Crossing I-5 bridge, and the primary point of contact on the commission for our stakeholder groups, including the Historic Albina Advisory Board and our now retired Equity and Mobility Advisory Committee. Good to see you all.
What do you do in your zero free time?
And my day job, I am the founder and CEO of a company called Willamette Technical Fabricators. So we do custom complex metal manufacturing for bridges and clean energy infrastructure. So mostly hydropower for the Army Corps of Engineers and offshore wind for the Department of Energy.
Awesome.
And I guess I should also disclose that I am currently a supplier to an ODOT project, the Abernathy Bridge in I-205 expansion project in Oregon City. So on occasion, I will have to recuse myself from votes related to that. But for the most part, I think the governor has appointed me because I am very actively involved in a lot of similar projects and in the communities of contractors and stakeholders that are affecting the implementation of these projects.
Would it be helpful to you to have an intro to the panelists or the folks that serve on this committee?
Absolutely. Yeah, please. And
Okay.
maybe, Shannon, if you don't mind going next.
Yeah. Shauna Brownstein. I am the energy director at a company called Rowan Digital Infrastructure. We build sustainable data centers. That is not related to transportation. Prior to this job, I was at Tesla for 2 years on the charging team, where I helped them work with utilities. And then prior to that, I was at Portland General Electric for 3 years running their clean fuels program and some other transportation electrification related stuff. Prior to that, I was at Northwest Natural and Government Affairs.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm in Portland.
And I'm just going in the order of the screen. Sarah? I think you may be muted. Okay.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kelber. I'm the Strategic Planning and Initiatives Manager at ODOT in the Director's Office and also a facilitator for this group.
Thank you. Marlene?
I'll say good morning, but good afternoon. So Marlene Hartinger, I am the Chief Auditor for the department.
Great, thank you. James?
I'm with ODOT. I am one of our principal internal auditors here with Marlene today.
Great. Leah?
Oh, good afternoon. Leah Horner, Assistant Director for Operations at ODOT. And I also want to say that I think Amanda Peets, not Amanda Peets, I'm sorry, Amy Ram, I'm looking at Amanda Peets. Amy Ramsdell said that she's on and listening, but I'm not sure, she's having trouble getting on the screen, but she's here.
Okay, great. And welcome, Ted. We were just doing introductions, so perfect timing.
So that means she joined, I think, as an attendee and not a panelist and not an attendee or something like that. So she needs to sign out and then sign back in as the other option.
Okay.
I think we can promote her. She might be the one without a name.
I think she's MCSS084.
Yeah.
Just promoted her.
Great. All right, Mayor Cross.
I'm Rod Cross. I'm the mayor of the city of Toledo, as you can see behind me. I don't have a lot of the other sexy jobs that you all have. I am a JV basketball coach, junior high basketball coach for both boys and girls. Um, Busy and active in my community. And for the next 2.5 weeks, I'm still the president of the Oregon Mayors Association.
We appreciate your insight. Thank you. Amanda, you're next on my screen. I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if that's just me. I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if that's just me.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
Okay. I wondered everybody's faces because I was making a joke about I have a super sexy job, unlike Mayor Cross, and then like everybody was deadpan. I was like, ooh, that one fell super flat. My name is Amanda Peets. I oversee kind of our policy, planning, research, data, and climate efforts at ODOT.
Thanks, Amanda. Ted?
Can you hear me?
Yes, and see you now.
Something's wrong. I can see you, but I can't. I don't know if you can hear me. No. I don't know where I am.
We hear you.
We can come back to you. Okay, no problem. Amy, it looks like your name is MCSS084. I know it's you.
It's me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amy Ramsdale. I'm the Delivery and Operations Administrator coming to you today from the Area and District 4 Corvallis office.
Thank you. And Paula?
Hi, good morning. Sorry I was late. I was bouncing between devices. Paula Hammond, I work at WSP, been on the CIAC since the beginning of this committee. And I live in Olympia, Washington, and travel in all directions up and down I-5.
Thank you, Paula. And then Megan and Michaela, I know you are working tirelessly behind the scenes. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hello. Yes, I am Michaela. I am the executive support to the OTC, but I also help out with CIAC along with Sarah. So happy to see all of you guys, and Megan is my colleague as well.
Great. Well, thank you for organizing. And I believe we have everyone, all of our current members. Great. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be the new OTC liaison, I guess, and chair of this committee, taking over for our former commissioner, Smith, as she has now retired. And I am generally briefed on what the SEAC has done in the past. And I really am hoping to get more input to be able to inform the future of the committee. But maybe I think it's helpful for us to start with a review of the charter and make sure that everyone is clear on the actual language therein. And then I'd love to do a roundtable with everyone's interests before we go over our audit overview. So Leah, if that's something that you're comfortable taking over.
Yep.
All yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. This was attached to the appointment, so hopefully everybody has at least seen it. And I'll give you just a quick background on kind of where the CIAC came from. So as we were in the mix of the 2017 funding conversation, the legislature was asking us to put accountability measures in place. Like, how can they really be sure that we are going to be doing what they are entrusting in us when they are giving us, my technical term of $1 bajillion to go forth and do good with public dollars in the transportation sector. And so what we had worked with the then legislators with on, including then Senator Beyer, was the development of the CIAC. And so you'll see in the purpose and responsibilities in the charter, A lot of this is focused on major projects, which I think we've had a conversation previously. We actually right now, just given our situation, don't have a lot of projects that meet this threshold. So there has not been a lot coming back to this committee in that regard. We have also reviewed our key performance measures over the last couple of years that I've been on this committee, and making sure that we are kind of tracking and also providing feedback in how we are looking at our KPMs. Along those lines, I'll just make sure that folks remember that we also did the dashboard work that had a connection to the KPMs in some regard, and that dashboard is live. But then I think the bigger piece of this group is really to look at the continuous improvement and how can we increase efficiency and meet our strategic goals as we look at our bigger strategic action plan, and how we are kind of focusing on not only our short and medium term success, but what are we looking at longer term to both hold ourselves accountable, make sure that the public has public trust in us, and that that is also translating to the legislative body. And so I think that our agendas for CIAC up to this point have focused on just a variety of issues that I think lend itself to the conversation. But I think that having Commissioner Chapman here as our new chair gives us an opportunity to kind of reassess and maybe look at kind of what each of these pieces are and make sure that we're also fulfilling the interests and the goals of you all as our advisory committee members to make sure that we're all kind of moving in the same direction. And so, yeah, if you scroll down, so in statute, so CIAC is in law, it also defines our membership, which is why you see both a mix of ODOT staff, a commissioner, as well as each of our CIAC members. And then our charter also talks about just the appointment process and some of the logistics. So it's not overly complicated, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody was kind of anchored into the why around what this group is intended to do. And I will pause if there's questions.
I think we're good.
Great. Any feedback, I think any feedback from folks on kind of if there are things that you want to make sure that we are leaning into, if there are topic areas that would be helpful for us to make sure that we're paying attention to as we look to the future. I see a couple of hands up. Go to Mayor Cross.
So one of the things I think that we need to lean into is that long-term, for lack of a better word, longevity of the system. Because one of the things that those of us on the coast and those of you that have traveled our main arterials from the valley to the coast, they are constantly failing. And we need to find some way, instead of band-aiding them essentially every year, find some way to either strengthen them, improve systems, whatever it takes, because for those of us that do live out here, traffic has gone through the roof compared to where it was just 10, 15 years ago. And one of the things that I know is hard for people to even think about, but and it's probably because I grew up here in the state and have seen the traffic flows. 101 was not designed for heavy truck traffic. And part of the reason why it fails everywhere along the line, one way or another, is, in my opinion, because of heavy trucks. And maybe we need to find a way to encourage hubs with smaller trucks, like a hub in Newport, a hub in Astoria, a hub in Tillamook, hub in Lincoln City, wherever those arterials come out from the valley, that there's a hub, and then they can use smaller trucks to go up and down the coast. If you look at 2018 6, especially those, but also 126, there are issues there with the amount of traffic that is on them. They weren't designed for it. Those roads were designed 40, 50, 60 years ago. And even with the upgrades like to Highway 20, we know that at any moment with any of our events out here, things can go sideways. And I know it's that way east of the mountains too, after talking with several of the local mayors out there. It's just that our system is aging, and instead of doing band-aids, we need to find a way to do long-term fixes to those issues. And I know the I-5 corridor is where everybody is, but I think that if we want people out and adventuring and seeing all of Oregon, we need to find a way to make long-term solutions to those roads also. Wow, I didn't think I'd get laughter, but that's okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's the office I'm at. There's people in the background. I don't know if you noticed my sweater is slightly seasonal. They're having oodles of fun. Mayor, just to address your concerns, that my time in project delivery was in your area. We have a lot of unstable slopes, a lot of landslides. I'm very familiar with the situation you're referring to. I think of Moolock Beach often and use it as an example of a place where if something were to happen there, it would have a significant impact to the entire coast.
I'm going to make a joke about Moolack. We all think you just ought to turn it into a giant ski jump and let us see how far we can go, because we're pretty sure it'll get there on its own. We're not complaining. We just know that if we don't get a hold of it, this is going to start getting repeated in a lot of places. But
yeah, it's why Ms. Peltz and I we're trying to highlight some of those unstable slopes in the ask for the legislature and make sure people understand they're there. When I think of that one, and again, I spent 10 years in your area, I happen to know the sanitation folks are based in Lincoln City, and I think they serve your area as well as Newport. And so if that goes, that's a public safety hazard. So I concur. We should be looking into that.
I see Paula's hand up.
Yeah. And I was trying to scroll up to see the assignment for the committee to make sure my comment's appropriate, but it seems like where we could be helpful, or we could find ways to understand the long-term goals. I see Amanda's on here, the strategic plan goals, and then those intermediate steps you're taking to achieve those goals would be interesting to us. And in the absence of major projects and distinct project delivery things to talk about, this next year is going to be so critical for ODOT, and how your revenue and ability to just do asset management pans out. Perhaps there's some way we could observe how that's going and helping you achieve your long-term strategic goals.
Yeah, I'll just maybe jump in there, Paula, to say I think that's a great thing to look at. When Leah was talking earlier about kind of the charge of the committee, and I think opportunity to tie more to the strategic action plan and really how we're implementing some of those things. I'll note I dropped in a link in the chat to the State of the System dashboard for anybody that's watching this. You can just type ODOT State of the System and it'll pull up. But that includes some of our metrics, even on the strategic action plan and what we're doing there. So I think this group drilling into those, seeing where maybe we see some opportunity, where we see some challenges, and being very transparent and accountable to those actions, I think is key, and kind of back to the core of why this group was formed. And then the one other thought I put in there is the strategic review, Paula, that you helped with for ODOT from WSP, that looked at kind of a health check of the organization prior to going into session. There's a number of actions and activities we identified as part of that, which I think are about bettering the business. And I think in some ways CIAC oversees or gets into the details of the business. So maybe checking in on some of those actions and activities as well might be helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if any of the other members have feedback for how best to structure these meetings going forward, I would greatly appreciate that.
I think, sorry, I'm just sort of thinking through this, but I think as we report back to the legislature, it's like very easy to not see the progress and to not catalog it, and to sort of, I don't know, but I think, as I look back at the purpose and responsibilities of this committee, I'm remembering all of the different ways that the committee has provided feedback to this team in ways that I hope has been helpful. And I'm not saying that the team deserves credit for the dashboard, but maybe we deserve credit for some of the messaging around what is included in the dashboard and how maybe it's that the language is more accessible to a lay audience, and sort of like cataloging some of those pieces of feedback that have been useful to the team as you guys have deployed different programs and projects might be a useful thing for this committee to do, or for staff to do, and then report back to the OTC and to the legislature.
That's helpful. Thank you, Shauna. Anyone else? If not, I'm fine if we move on to our audit review and then circle back on potential topics and areas of focus.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind jumping in really quickly on why we brought the audit review to this agenda item. So I think part of what we have done in the CIAC kind of agenda development is focus on kind of what that outstanding list of topic areas are for the CIAC as a whole. What we did this time is I actually asked our internal staff, what would be helpful for you to have the CIAC engaged on? And resoundingly, what we heard back was audits. And so it wasn't necessarily like just a report out on here's all the audits that are happening with like kind of a data dump, if you will. I think the intent of this is to maybe take a look at what the audit team has done over the last year, take a look at where they're headed over the next year, and see if there are some audit areas that we can, similar to the conversation about the SAP and the strategic review, bring back to the CIAC in a way that is meaningful so that our progress on some very tangible areas is being tracked on a broader scale than just our internal conversations. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context on how that came to the agenda. But I will turn it over to Marlene. If Marlene, is it you?
I think it's me for to start with anyway. Great. Well, thank you. We appreciate being here today. My name is Marlene Hartinger, again, Chief Auditor for the department. We had a historic connection with the Continuous Improvement Advisory Committee, so it's nice to be back, and it sounds like maybe some opportunity in the future to be more connected with you all. So real quickly, I just got a few things to walk through. So I'll say a little recap of last year, then what we have, as Leah mentioned, on planning for 2025. So next slide. Let's see, I think I made my screen a little bit big, but we have just a little bit about our office to highlight. So our office, we're inside the department, but we are structured to be independent. So our functions required by statute. And just historically, I think we are the longest standing internal audit shop amongst state agencies. And our work has always been independent, but with the passage of House Bill 2017, it just strengthened it even further. So it elevated our office so that we are reporting directly to the Transportation Commission as our governing body. We have the authority to decide what to audit, so the final say rests with us. And then the statute also made our results of our audit public facing. So all of our audit reports are not only on the Commission's typically consent calendar, but at the end of the day, they are posted on the internet. So we do have a website so the public can go out there and access our audit information. Next, our work is structured to be objective. So we do follow standards. You'll see that nice yellow book there on the screen. So that's issued by the Government Accountability Office. It is followed by our state auditor's office. It's followed by, the federal U.S. Inspector Generals. So it's kind of the benchmark auditing standards for government auditing. It sets a really high bar for the quality of work that we have to accomplish in our audits. And then to ensure that we're following those standards, we do have a external peer review every 3 years by a team of AASHTO auditors. They will come in and look around in our work papers and our reports and make sure we're adhering to those standards and that our work is valid. So we have that every 3 years, and we just had that done this year. So we received which the highest rating is pass. It doesn't sound very exciting, but we were excited to get that pass rating on our work. And then last but not least, strategic alignment. We bench our audit work against the strategies outlined in the agency's strategic action plan. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So next slide. So there's a question about how do we decide what to audit. So it's a process that we go through. So our overarching goal, though, is to be focused on mission-oriented risks. We build a 2-year audit plan, and we go through an annual update process. And we focus on risks that may impede ODOT from achieving its mission. And while we do, have the final say on what to audit, it is important for us to get input from a broad range of folks. So, ODOT management and staff certainly contribute, but we also seek input from interested external parties. And so you'll see that a long list of contributors there that are listed. This last iteration of our risk assessment, we had almost 70 individuals contribute ideas and suggestions for our audit plan. And so we want to have those conversations and, folks inside the department, outside the department, stakeholders, all those folks give us some thoughts on what we should be auditing. But again, at the end of the day, it is an auditor determined process. And so we will put forth an audit plan that will go to the commission for adoption. So, and then next slide. And then I mentioned about aligning with the strategic action plan. So you'll see here, this was from our last biennial plan. I know things have changed a little bit with our strategic priorities, but we will take all of our topics and align them with our strategic action plan priorities. And so we want to make sure our topics are, hitting where ODOT is intending to go as an agency. So we'll revisit this crosswalk every audit plan build. And as ODOT makes updates to strategic action plan, we will realign our work with those priorities. So in this way, our work fits nicely with the agency's strategies in accomplishing what it's intended to accomplish here. So. And then next slide, and I will hand over the next part to James, who will walk through the work as a look back what we've done this past year and where we're going next year. So James.
Thanks, Marlene. So again, James Hansling, one of our principal internal auditors here at ODOT. And so I'll just kind of give a brief description of what's here on the slide. So this kind of captures what we've done for 2024. We have there on the top left 3 reports that we have issued so far this year, and kind of the categories there that we looked at with active transportation, cost estimating, social equity, and then Region 1 camp cleanups. So those are 3 reports that we have issued so far. The pending list is long. Somehow we timed it to have a bit of a traffic jam here with a lot of audit reports kind of coming to the reporting stage kind of at the same time here at the end of the year. And so those are the group of audits that we have kind of pending in our reporting process that should be issued either this month or next month likely. And then we have 4 audits there, and that's the audits underway. And those are ones that are still kind of early on in the process, and that we're still in the planning and or fieldwork stage on those audits. So there's a longer horizon there before those reports get issued. And so I guess I can give a pause there. I don't know if there's any questions about the topics you list there. Hearing none. We can go to the next slide. Oh, I'll push pause. Amy.
Hey, James.
Hi.
It takes me a while. The environmental compliance one, I know we just had a review by Federal Highways. Is this going to be in addition to that? Can you kind of fill me? I just want to make sure we're not making you duplicate the work, but maybe take that and do a deeper dive.
Yes. So I will answer what I can. I'm not directly involved with the audit, and also Marlene, if you can correct me if I say something wrong.
You bet.
But the environmental compliance one, That one has been heavily coordinated with FHWA to try to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and trying to leverage our function along with the efforts that they do as well as part of reviewing environmental compliance.
Yep, that was what I was going to add as well. And the team has been meeting, I want to say not weekly, but 2 or 3 times a month with the federal team. So it's been highly coordinated, as James indicated.
So then the 25 plan work. So we're kind of in the process, as Marlene said, of wrapping up our mid-biennium review to kind of check what the 24-25 plan had slated for 25, making some adjustments kind of based on resourcing, potential changes, and just kind of what are priority areas that we want to focus on. And so that kind of blue box there, that captures all of the new audit topics we were planning to launch during 2025, kind of throughout the year. Which kind of impacts when those reports will be issued. Some obviously will anticipate having reports issued by end of year, with some of them, if they don't get started towards later in the year, and potentially on the size of the audit, scope of work, and resourcing, might not get issued till 2026. But again, so that's kind of where we're at right now. There's also a bullet there on ongoing governance communication with the OTC and executive strategy team. Just also want to hit on that as we were doing our audit work and things are in process, we do have regular communication with both the OTC and executive strategy team and executive. I don't know if anyone else is getting feedback. Yes. So we do 2 updates to the OTC throughout the year. And then I think Marlene regularly is communicating with EST as well on where we're at in our audit work. So yeah, I guess we can open it up if there's any questions on audits.
A curiosity that I have is, has the legislature, I know I keep saying this, next legislative session is very critical, but are there any of these that relate to legislative requests for audits, or are these, Marlene, I know you take input from lots of different places. Have any of these been directed by the legislative body for deeper dive audits or interest?
That's an excellent question. We do solicit feedback. LFO is our primary legislative input during our risk assessment. James, I might kick it back to you if you recall if any of these topics ended up being ones that they mentioned on their interview, if you can recall that or not.
Not that I can think of, no, at least in the conversations from LFO.
And LFO stands for?
Legislative Fiscal Office.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think, Marlene, you can correct me wrong, we don't typically interact directly with the legislators during our risk assessment process to solicit feedback from them on our audit topics.
Mm. Okay.
So at the risk of adding any topics to a very thorough list, as far as I can tell already, were there any topics or key performance indicators, areas where we've seen the agency making strides to improve that were not on that list? Anything that should be added or adjusted to be more comprehensive? And maybe it would be helpful, James, if we could go back to the 2025, the second to last slide. Yeah, the plan work site, that
one. Chair, in response to your request, on that construction cost increases, I would really like to see maybe a bullet or a sub-bullet that talks about our risk register that we develop and design, and whether or not we move that and into construction, and how well that's tracked.
Good point, Amy. I think that's something the public has been asking for as well, and as we're gearing up for the long session, that's something that we need to be able to reference easily.
Thank you for highlighting that. That's great.
And also, can you just ask about the usefulness of the tool when you're interviewing staff, and if they have any feedback?
Gotcha.
I mean, we are asking, but they may tell you something we don't hear.
We will add that to the list. Thank you.
This isn't a new idea or suggestion, but the Newburgh-Dundee project, I assume that's a project labor agreement?
It is.
What is the nature of the audit focus?
Right. So that one, Amy, I might kick a little bit of this over to you as well, but this is it's just I think it's in the early stages. So we're just trying to get an understanding of the PLA and learn what we can on the execution of that. So Amy, did you want to add some clarification?
Were you also going to interview the contractors? Because we only received one bid on that project. And I think we were going to try to find out from some of the contractors that we expected to see bid on it, why they didn't.
That we've been kicking that around as doing that, yes.
Okay.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh. We only had one contractor on there because of the PLA. The contractor admits that he added extra money because he's not sure he can get compliance with the PLA agreements. It's a costly deal, but I understand they have awarded the job and it's going to go forward.
Is this your first one? Is that why you're paying particular attention?
Yes.
Okay.
For the
Makes sense.
PLA, right, Leah? I think we've had a couple of the CWA, but this is the first PLA.
Yeah, we were underway with CWAs and then got sued. So we had to pull back on all of those. We had 8 projects that were going to move forward and none of them are. So the Newburgh-Dundee is a PLA in statute. And so that was the one that moved forward.
And CWA is community
workforce agreement.
Okay. So
Sorry.
Similar, but different being. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Got to get my jargon right.
And I will offer, I should have highlighted on our plan, we do leave unscheduled time for management and transportation commission requests. And so, if an idea comes to mind later, please do let us know. We do have capacity to consider that.
This looks very thorough.
I agree. I think this is a really helpful list for the members of this committee to be able to essentially be a focus group or sounding board for the ODOT staff and to provide actionable feedback in the best and highest use of our time as volunteers with limited bandwidth and not trying to duplicate the work that needs to be taken on as a result of that feedback by the staff.
The Abernathy Bridge is doubled in price. Are we going to get a look at that and explained why?
James, do you want to? I think we have that one on our list for looking at. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I think that was in some of our early planning meetings on the construction cost increase audit. I think that one was singled out as one for us to kind of consider and take a look at amongst a few other projects that have also had significant cost increases during design and potentially construction.
Will they be able to tell us if the cost increases is going to take other jobs out from being bid that were scheduled?
Yes. We will need to make modifications in our bridge program. And so to get funding for that bridge, we have a list of our timber bridge programs that we will not accomplish this year. They'll be delayed. Hopefully we'll have a funding package. Those go back up to the top of our list as things that we start to work in when we receive funds. And I'm being hopeful there with saying when we receive funds.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, thank you, Amy. That's a good reminder. I forgot to mention, I am also on the Joint Commission on Transportation subgroup or committee focused on the 2017 transportation package. So along with many of our legislators and community stakeholders, thinking about how we put together a viable funding package to complete both the Abernathy I-205 project and the Rose Quarter improvement project. And recognizing that there are other priorities for the governor that she's included in her budget that recently came out, and budget shortfalls for the agency as a whole, going into the 2025 legislative session, thinking about the most realistic way to meet the budget shortfalls to be able to complete both of those projects, and understanding the overages and how to plan appropriately and avoid that in the future, so that we don't have the same problem when we come forward for the next transportation package, is essentially the focus of that ongoing conversation. But it's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Any other feedback on potential topics or areas of focus on potential topics or areas?
We had a presentation on a bridge project that they told us was on time and on budget until until we brought up a claim that was on the project, and then they promised to get back to us and explain the claim and why they felt they weren't going to wind up paying for it. It was, I believe, 5 or 10 million. It was a large claim.
And I think that was Scottsburg's Bridge. I'm sorry, Ted, you're cutting in and out, but I think that was Scottsburg Bridge.
It was. Yeah. We'll bring them back. We'll have them follow up.
All right. Any other ideas any other ideas?
There's two of you.
Actually, I just got a reminder. We did not get an introduction from you, Ted, on the record. If you're able to get your sound working now, I'd like to make sure you have that, since this is a public meeting.
There's something wrong with my computer because I'm a little behind schedule here or something. I'm here breaking up. But my name's Ted Odlin, and I've been on the committee since it started. I'm a heavy highway contractor. I built bridges for the state of Oregon, many of them. I'm now a consultant because that's what you become when you're old and you don't want to retire. So I'm still active in the industry and still working. I mentor minority contractors. I do quite a bit of that. I'm working with several contractors on different projects, just advising. So I'm in that sweet spot of life, I guess, or if you call it that.
Well, thank you, Ted. I'm grateful for your institutional knowledge, and I hope to get to that point one day. If we don't have any other feedback, I do really appreciate everyone's comments, and I think we have a lot to go on in our marching orders for the next meeting. I'll turn it back over to Leah if there's anything else that we need to accomplish on this agenda for staff.
Thank you, Chair. No, I think that this was everything. We will take the feedback and put together some next steps on kind of where we are with audits and any other agenda items, as well as things that may have needed additional follow-up from previous meetings, and then we'll loop back with the committee. So this has been a really helpful touch point for us to kind of reassess how we move into 2025.
All right. Well, thank you again, everyone, and happy holidays. Look forward to connecting with you all in the new year. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.